Welcome to My Health, My Way, a podcast dedicated to empowering and supporting women living with endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility. We are your hosts. I'm Alana, Marketing Business Manager, and Sarah, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. We are here to bring you stories and insights from a holistic perspective. Our aim is to foster a sense of community to help you navigate the challenges and triumphs that come with these conditions. Get ready to embark on a holistic adventure with us. Welcome to My Health, My Way, where health meets functional wisdom. Hi Sarah, how are you going?
Great. How are you, Alana?
Very well, very well. We are going to jump into the different types of testing that you do as an FDN today. And I thought the first one that we can start with is a really comprehensive test. And it's one of the better ones to start with, especially if people don't know where to start. And that is a GI map.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what a GI map is?
A GI map is a comprehensive stool test. So we are going to take a stool sample.
Yep.
And poop really can tell us so much more about our health, our gut health, than we think. So it's a really, really great test. And it's really a direct reflection of, what's happening within your gut. So we can look at things like digestion, also immunity, mood, energy, skin, hormones, inflammation, all of those kind of things. So certain types of bacteria sometimes, obviously can drive a lot of inflammation, a lot of bloating, those kind of things. And it gives us insight into the gut microbiome, digestive strength, obviously inflammation levels, immune response, and even hidden infections. So these are the things that we can see. It's really like this blueprint of your internal ecosystem. So
it's quite a comprehensive test.
It is. And I don't necessarily run it on every single client, to be honest. But for the ones that come to me with quite extensive digestive issues, it can be quite insightful. And also, obviously, the ones that have a lot of bloating, it can be really, really insightful. To kind of know, what bacteria is driving what, but also what are some of the digestive markers doing, okay, what's the immune system doing, things like that.
Yeah, perfect. How is a stool test run through you different from what you can get done at your normal GP or doctor's office?
Okay, most doctor-ordered stool tests check for acute infections, so it's different type of testing, which are more like culture-based methods, whereas the GI map uses a PCR DNA technology.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different, and it's much more sensitive. So it picks up even low-grade imbalances in bacteria, viruses, fungi, and these things can often go undetected in conventional tests, but can still cause chronic symptoms. So it's still important, obviously, to look into this for things like bloating, fatigue, hormonal imbalances.
Yeah, perfect. Can the GI map that you run detect parasites, bad bacteria, and candida, which a lot of women do have?
Bad bacteria and candida, absolutely. However, it's not really a test for parasites. This is actually, a lot of women come to me and they want the stool test done for parasites, but the truth is parasites don't actually just hang out in the intestines, ready to be flushed out with the next bowel movement. They're a little bit wiser than that, and they generally move beyond that and can absolutely go more systemically, so they're not necessarily be picked up in that one stool sample. I'd say if you're actually looking for parasites in stool, which I actually don't recommend, but if you are, then you would have to run more like 4 different samples over, a few different days to kind of see if you can catch them, so to speak. They're not necessary. Just because a parasite doesn't show up in that once-off stool sample, remember it's a once-off stool sample, doesn't necessarily mean you don't have any. The majority of clients I see have parasites, but they don't necessarily show up in a stool sample.
What are the markers like calprotectin and zonulin, and why do they matter in a stool test?
Calprotectin is a marker that looks into inflammation in the gut lining.
Okay.
So it's that inflammatory marker that we can look at. And when it's high, obviously it can indicate some irritation, infection, or even things like IBD. So yeah, that one is a good one to look at. Though I don't often see that one elevated. I have seen it elevated in clients who've just had surgery a few months ago. Makes sense.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. That inflammation marker goes up if we just had surgery.
Yep.
But it's also a good one to monitor to make sure that it comes down. Right. We want that inflammation marker to come down. Okay. I don't often see it elevated. Zonulin is actually a marker of intestinal permeability. So whether someone has leaky gut or not. So when it's high, it means that your gut lining isn't sealing properly, which allows things like toxins, bacteria, and food particles to leak into your bloodstream, and then triggering an immune response, an inflammatory response. So this is where I talk to clients about the fact that I guess the immune system can become quite upset when the mucosal barrier is broken down, because that is essentially what's protecting that immune system. Okay, and that's where in your mucosal barrier, you've got your gut microbiome, and you want all of that to be really, really strong, so that supports the immune response and doesn't make the immune system go, oh, what's happening here? Okay, it doesn't want to be exposed to all these external things like pathogens and So we really want to make sure that we have good balance there so that we support the immune system.
And what type of things can break down that microbiome in your gut?
Good question. Alcohol can, gluten can, pharmaceuticals can. What else? There's lots of things. Inflammatory foods, obviously, the things like fatty foods, fast foods, those kind of things. Chronic stress even can. So elevated cortisol over a long period of time can break down that mucosal barrier. Yeah. These are all the kind of things that.
And these are the things you need to look for, because you do need to. Everyone always says it starts with the gut. So finding this and seeing if this is a problem can then obviously give you a really good starting point to be able to really work with someone and make them feel a lot better.
And also to say that, I guess this is something that I personally experienced as well, is a lot of people already cut out the inflammatory foods and they try to do all the gut healing. But if there's still something that continuously breaks down that gut barrier, then you need to figure that one out. So for me personally, it was actually that I still had quite low stomach acid. So when you have low stomach acid, it allows pathogens to still thrive. Yep. So that's sometimes where the typical 4R approach of just, coming in with antimicrobials and then, removing and then reseeding doesn't always work, because if there's still something present that continuously breaks down that gut lining, then we need to address that. So for me, it was actually that I had that low stomach acid that I needed to address in order to, I guess, have a stronger environment that will, I guess, in future actually take care of things like parasites, which I also had. But it wasn't just about killing those parasites. It's about making that environment stronger and making that gut lining stronger, because just going in with killer mode doesn't always work. Sometimes we need to come from a far more supportive approach to actually heal the environment and make sure that it's more robust so that it can look out for us again. That's the kind of approach that I needed to happen for me, because I was already doing all the things, but I was taking PPIs, so the stomach acid, suppressing medication for 4 years. So no wonder I had lots of work to do with actually, increasing that stomach acid production again, so that I wasn't such a hostile host and allowing all these pathogens to thrive. This is where that killer approach doesn't always work. So when, we just go in with antimicrobials or even antibiotics to kill the bacteria we find, we haven't addressed the fact that that low stomach acid will still be there. And as a result of antibiotics or antimicrobials, we have actually just made that worse. Yeah. So we need to come from a different angle and really, heal the gut lining and support stomach acid production so that we're not such a hostile host.
Yeah. And the lack of stomach acid is kind of like, it has a knock-on effect. I know from personal experience, but if someone's got low stomach acid, let's just get a Mylanta or something like that to stop the burning and all the. But the thing is that you're actually not fixing the root cause. It's just a Band-Aid. And then say if you're like, well, I'm going to go out for a steak dinner or I'm going to eat a high protein diet, then it's going to hurt, because it will just keep repeating.
It couldn't be a bigger red flag for low stomach acid when someone tells me they cannot eat meat, or things giving them reflux, because it basically means that their stomach cannot digest these things, which is a result of low stomach acid, okay? It's almost like it hurts their gut or it makes them really bloated. It's a result of low stomach acid. Not too much. And I know that this is what people are being told. Hey, I've not met a person with too much stomach acid. I actually think it's incredibly rare to find someone with too much stomach acid. In the majority of cases, it's too little. It's too low. And that is what's causing essentially the food to kind of sit there. Okay, it makes you feel really heavy. And it sits there and the stomach just can't quite digest it, and then that kind of pushes everything up instead of down. Okay, so we want everything to kind of move downwards, not being pushed upwards, where that little splinter can open up because there's too much pressure on the gut because there's not enough stomach acid to actually digest through that food. I always say, your gut doesn't have teeth. So what do we think does all that work? Well, that's your stomach acid. And that needs to be strong to actually chew through your food. Yeah. Because, the amount of people that don't chew properly, you'd be surprised.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And it's so all interconnected, isn't it? It really is. And then if you do have a gut infection or dysbiosis, how does that then impact your hormones? Because, that has to have a knock-on effect. Women with endometriosis, it is a hormonal imbalance. So if your gut isn't healthy and you have a gut infection or dysbiosis, how is that going to then impact your hormone levels?
We talk a lot about the gut is the true prerequisite for hormonal health because the gut and the hormones are so deeply connected. So everything that happens in the gut ultimately will affect your hormones. Yeah. And the way in which that happens is that a lot of that really can impair detoxification, estrogen clearance, as well as nutrient absorption. Okay, so as we know, we need a lot of nutrients to build healthy hormones, but then also anything that kind of happens in the gut. So if you imagine we have a lot of bad bacteria, a lot of dysbiosis or candida, the liver gets real busy, okay, because the liver is essentially responsible for, filtering through those bacteria. Yeah. And estrogen or hormones kind of get put on the back burner, okay, because it's not necessarily a priority in that moment. Toxins are, pathogens are to the body. So the liver kind of gets a little bit busy, and then essentially these pathways can become a little bit overburdened where estrogen doesn't get cleared properly. Of course. That's how that can happen.
Yeah, definitely. And then with the GI map, if I am bloated or if I'm constipated, if I'm having trouble with my guts going to the bathroom, will this test be able to work out what's going on with that, figure out why?
Yes, it can definitely help with, bloating, looking into some of the bacteria that's present or that perhaps is even, connected to something that's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. There's certain bacteria that can show up where we know they're very often present when someone has small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which causes a lot of bloating. So it can definitely help with that. And there's a lot of bacteria that, I guess, produces a lot of gas, okay? So when we see them present, it's like a big red flag. I'm like, it's causing that bloating. And, those bacteria love to be fed, and that's where, a lot of women will experience increased bloating after eating certain foods, okay? But then also in terms of constipation, it's also, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later as well in another episode when we talk about the HTMA, will be that looking into minerals can be really, really helpful as well when it comes to constipation, not just the GI map, but actually looking into minerals and how well or not well the body is hydrated and whether there are certain minerals that are really, really low. Yeah. I think I see a lot of constipation with women that are low in potassium. Okay, so that's another good way of, I guess, looking at that. But there's also certain types of bacteria that can cause constipation. Yep.
Now, can this test show if I have leaky gut or inflammation of the gut lining? Will the GI map give you enough information to let you know if I'm suffering from leaky gut?
Yep, it absolutely does. So as we talked earlier, the zonulin is a marker that looks into that. Yep. Calprotectin if it's elevated, but also secretory IgA. So secretory IgA is that primary immunoglobulin, and that kind of looks into, your immune function. Though if we're looking at a standard GI map that, you have in front of yourself there, if you can have a look just at these markers here, you can actually see, this is my example from, years ago. Yeah. But you can see that my secretory secretory IgA is coming up quite low.
Yep.
And you can see that statistical range there is between 500 and I believe it's something like 2,000.
Correct.
Now, a lot of women will still fall within that range. And then, if they have this test done via their conventional doctor, they'll probably just be sent back out the door because they fall within that range. But that's still a statistical range. So functionally, with that secretory IgA, we want to be around 1,500.
Right.
So obviously you can see my 300 is very, very low.
It's low.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's something that we can rebuild though. So I've obviously since retested and mine's gone up significantly. But, at 300, I was like, okay, my immune system is really not very responsive.
It's not working as well.
It's not working as well. And I knew I still had a little bit of work to do. But yeah, I have not seen that in a good range for many clients at all. It's very, very low in most cases, yeah.
And your average test that you could do at the GP, obviously, they've got a bell curve where they go, you're in normal range, but you can still feel, I don't feel right. So even though you might be in normal range within their standards, you can still feel unwell.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we see that with, these kind of tests that are being run where, people will still fall within the, normal ranges, or whether it's, blood tests generally. Yeah. People can be incredibly unwell and still be sent back out the door because the tests come back normal.
Yeah, exactly. And then so people who have got skin conditions like acne and eczema and rashes and things like that, obviously that is an outward representation of, I don't feel well. Yes. I am not well. How does the gut affect these conditions like acne and skin irritations?
Yep. Like the skin and the gut are definitely connected. So there's obviously something that's called the gut-skin axis.
Okay.
Might have heard of that.
Yep.
So imbalances in the gut, like dysbiosis, candida, or leaky gut, can trigger immune responses and histamine issues that show up on the skin. And then so poor elimination of toxins or hormones via the gut also forces the skin to act as a backup detox channel. Okay, if it can't go out, be metabolized and detoxify it one way, it's going to come out another. So it's basically this outcry from the body to kind of, say, hey, I'm struggling here.
Yep.
There's imbalances internally and it's going to have to come out the skin.
Before we jump back into the second half of our show, I would like to share how you can work with Sarah. As a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, Sarah takes a holistic root cause approach to your well-being. Say goodbye to merely treating symptoms and hello to uncovering the root causes of your health challenges. Sarah utilises cutting-edge functional testing to get to the heart of the matter and design a personalised plan just for you. Just remember, she's only a click away. You can connect with her on Instagram under NutriRoot_health for valuable insights, health tips, and a peek into the world of functional diagnostic nutrition. If you're more of an email person, drop her a message directly at sarah@nutriRootHealth.com.au. That information will be in the show notes.
Don't miss out on this opportunity to work with me, your dedicated health detective.
Now let's dive back into the second half of our podcast. Stay tuned for more intriguing conversations. So, will a person need to take antimicrobials or do a gut protocol based on the GI map?
It depends on, I guess, what we will find.
Okay.
So I'm not a huge fan of jumping in with antimicrobials necessarily unless we are dealing with some acute infection that absolutely needs addressing right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm more of a fan of using antimicrobials than antibiotics.
Yep.
However, sometimes we need to be a little bit careful, especially when someone shows up with a microbiome that's already incredibly depleted. Yep. We're not always going to, benefit someone by killing more, because I think there is this misunderstanding out there that antimicrobials do not kill good bacteria. Mm-hmm. That is not true.
Okay.
Antimicrobials are a lot gentler on the gut than antibiotics, but that doesn't mean they don't kill the good bacteria as well. They do. Yeah. Just not as aggressively.
Okay.
But over time, and the thing is with antimicrobials, because they often have to be taken for longer periods of time than antibiotics, that over time they absolutely will deplete the gut microbiome as well.
Yep.
So what we want to do is be a little bit careful with people where the gut microbiome is already incredibly depleted, and perhaps come from a more supportive approach of rebuilding that gut, looking at foods, going more the food approach, but then also bringing in some, gut healing and perhaps even some pre and probiotics, kind of more do a outcrowding of the bad guys than killing them so much.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we don't eventually go in with a bit of a, gentle protocol, but it's probably not going to be a starting place. So it's more of a personalized approach where I would be looking at, I guess, what's in front of me and then decide, is this right for this person with where they're at with their microbiome?
Yep. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And how long does it usually take to heal the gut after finding these imbalances? Are we talking, is every person, and obviously every person's an individual, but are we looking at, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? What's the time frame?
Gut healing can actually happen quite quickly if we figure out, why are the imbalances there in the first place? What are the the contributing factors in terms of what's disrupting balance, but then also perhaps what nutrients are missing. And if we figure that out, which is, where functional testing is great, because we can kind of quickly figure that all out, and we can then give the person the right support, not just any random support. And then gut healing can absolutely happen quite quickly, especially if they're sticking to the protocol and are really good with their nutrition. I'd say 3 months is very realistic, and it can happen. But sometimes it can take a little bit longer. Yeah. But the gut lining can actually heal quite quickly within days. So it's great. Just that we often can also break it down quite quickly with the things that we're doing. Okay, so if we're taking a lot of pharmaceuticals, painkillers, those kind of things, antibiotics, they really can disrupt that gut lining really, really quickly. So it doesn't take that long overall, but it depends on what the contributing factors are, like what's present and what's disrupting balance.
Some beneficial bacteria like Bifidobacterium are low. Does this mean that people need to take a probiotic? If you go to your local pharmacy and you can see the probiotics and they're in the fridge, and is that something that you have to do?
No. Not necessarily. Food is very powerful. Yep. Okay, food is more powerful. And if some key bacteria are low, then yes, sometimes it can help to take certain strains. However, long-term microbiome health is actually being supported with prebiotic food. So really, you're not reseeding anything with probiotics. Okay. So if you have a really, really low gut microbiome and certain or a lot is, under even the detectable limit, you're not going to reseed that with probiotics. Entirely useless. Okay. So we're wasting our money there. And that is what I see a lot. Okay. I see a lot of, depleted gut microbiomes where people have taken probiotics for years. Yep. And I see their stool test number. Well, it hasn't done anything. Yeah. Literally hasn't done a thing. Yeah. Or they're taking the wrong strain. So we're over, crowding the good guys, which is also not a good thing. Because it's about balance when it comes to the gut. So continuously taking the same strains of probiotics is not necessarily a good thing. Yep. It's about what is it that, your gut microbiome is asking for, really. Yeah. It's asking for balance. So I do recommend to perhaps switching out certain types of, probiotics if that's what we're doing. But also essentially if there are gut issues, then definitely test and make sure we actually take what we actually need. Yep. Prebiotics are what reseeds the gut, not probiotics.
Right. Okay. And there's definitely a difference. So a lot of people will go and take a course of antibiotics. They might have had an infection or, they were unwell and they've done that. And they're like, I'll just go down to the local pharmacy and go to the little fridge section and get myself a probiotic to make sure that my stomach feels okay after the antibiotics. This is just not going to help.
It depends. Again, it depends on, what was the microbiome like before we even took the antibiotics. Yep. Are we going to a state of, having such low levels that we just need prebiotics? So there's actually a brand from Microbiome Labs. I think it's Restore Flora that has prebiotics in it, which is recommended for, after antibiotics, and I think that just makes so much more sense to really help reseed that gut. Yes, we do want to also maintain what's there, which is what you would be doing with probiotics. Yep. So sometimes doing a bit of both can be helpful.
But
if we're taking certain probiotics of strains that we still have plenty of, we're just really just maintaining those. We're not really resetting what we've lost.
Yeah.
So that's where testing can be helpful.
Yeah. And so how can a depleted gut microbiome affect someone's overall general health?
The gut microbiome, or I guess the strength of it, is what supports your immune system. Okay. Yeah. So your healthy gut flora is the main signal for a healthy immune response. If we don't have it, we're probably not going to have a very healthy immune response.
Right.
So it's very, very important that we look at that. But also it helps with things like a vitamin production, so your B vitamins, vitamin K. And yeah, it obviously affects your digestion. It increases inflammation if we've got a really, really depleted gut microbiome. Also mood issues, okay? So we see a lot of, anxiety with certain strains that are just non-existent. Akkermansia is one that, if it's low, has been linked to anxiety. So we really want to make sure we got plenty of that. Yep. And it can be a difficult one to get back or reset when it's really, really low.
Okay.
There are a few brands on the market now that are well set to help, but I'm yet to see that in clinical practice. But yeah, if it's low, it can be really, really difficult to reseed. But yeah, obviously it affects pretty much everything. I mean, the gut microbiome is really your foundation of whole body health. So if it's not there, we already have an incredibly weak foundation to even achieve balance overall. So
okay, yeah. And so if someone's done the GI map and the report comes back and it says they have high levels of something called, now I am going to butcher this, dysfunctional vibropygia?
That wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I don't, honestly, to tell you the truth, I might be, as a German, I might be pronouncing this completely incorrect. So who knows?
As an Australian, I didn't get it any better either.
So dysfunctional vibropygia, but I don't know if that's correct. But anyway,
is that dangerous? And could it be linked to why people have a lot of bloating and inflammation?
It was interesting because that was from my GI map a lot of years ago, and it's one that is a sulfate reducing bacteria. So in excess, it can absolutely produce hydrogen sulfide gas. So it can irritate the gut lining and cause bloating and things like that, and inflammation. It's not like it's dangerous per se, but it can still be a big contributor to chronic digestive symptoms, and which obviously needs addressing. So this is where, people will go on rounds and rounds of antibiotics, and it may not address these types of bacteria, that have been there for a very, very long time, because it just needs a different approach. So,
But it isn't. It can lead to that bloating and that inflammation and just feeling uncomfortable. And every time you eat something, and then you feel, sick within your stomach, basically.
Yes.
And then you might have a lot of gas after you eat.
Yes.
Or first thing in the morning, you've got a lot of gas, and you're thinking, why is this happening? And it can be linked to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what does it mean in the GI map that if it comes back and I have a low secretory IgA?
Low secretory IgA is your gut's first line of defense, immune defense. Okay, that's your primary immunoglobulin. So if it's low, you've got a low immune defense. Okay, guards are down, which is not great. We want that to be strong. But again, that is your immune response that is directly linked to the strength of your gut microbiome.
Right.
Okay, so if you can have a look at, even just mine was obviously low. But now I'm going to go to my normal gut flora, which is obviously, a while ago. As you can see, the majority of them are quite low. So this is in direct correlation with, what's the state of my microbiome? Well, it's fairly depleted. My secretory IgA is really, really low. So obviously I knew I had quite some work to do there to reseed that. Okay. And so obviously we want to make sure that, we heal that and we strengthen the immune system, because essentially it leaves us more vulnerable to pathogens, also food sensitivities, and gut inflammation. So it's really, really important that we address that.
And when you talk about food sensitivities, it's, like some people with cow's milk or gluten, or, me personally, I can't have garlic. So people will have certain foods that they go, oh, I'm not going to eat that because that's not going to be great. And that can be because you have that low secretory IgA.
We often see if we have an acute immune response where people are hypersensitive to certain foods, we can also see that incredibly elevated. Right. So really, really, really high.
Yeah, it goes the other way. Yeah.
It goes the other way, all the other way, where it's really, really high. So we know we've got this acute, response where the immune system is getting really upset. But it's a bit like cortisol. It can deplete itself over time. Okay. If it stays elevated for a long time, it's like cortisol stays elevated for a long time, and then eventually it can sort of, deplete itself as these issues don't get addressed. Many people know they've been running around with these things for 10, 15, even 20 years.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, we see the complete depletion of these things, over time. So
yeah, that makes sense. Now, butyrate and other short-chain fatty acids are low in the GI map. What does this mean in terms for somebody if they're low in butyrate and short-chain fatty acids?
Butyrate is a fuel source for the cells that line your gut.
Okay.
So it's made by good bacteria when you eat things like fiber. Okay, low butyrate means poor microbiome function. So that's obviously not good. It can lead to a weak gut lining, inflammation, leaky gut, poor motility. So it's really, really important. It's also linked to mood, brain health, and metabolic health overall. So low levels can have wide-reaching effects. So butyrate is also in things like, butter. So it's really, really, really important for us, actually.
It's important, yeah. It's really, even though it's in your gut and, you obviously put food in your mouth and it goes into your gut and it is processed there, but it has an overall effect really on every part of your life. It affects your hormones. It can affect anxiety and your moods. It can affect. So I feel like starting off with a GI map really does give you and the person a really good indication of what's going on. And then further on down the track, whatever you then decide to work with them and how you're going to go forward, where you stand and if this is going to help them. Because there is no point in throwing something at them if their gut microbiome is just not going to be able to handle it. Yeah. Okay. Even though there's no parasites were detected in a GI map, okay, so if that comes back and we're all good, could something else still be off, especially if a person is still feeling bloated, tired, gassy? If they still have all of those symptoms but there's no parasites, obviously after everything that we've just spoken about, there's so many different things that it can be. It just doesn't have to be a parasite in the gut.
Yeah, exactly right. Goes back to, I guess, what I said earlier, that, the GI map doesn't necessarily pick up on parasites. Doesn't mean that there isn't any and that they can't be a contributor to those symptoms. But obviously, other imbalances, yeast overgrowth, candida, and even enzyme deficiencies, poor stomach acid production, all of those things absolutely can contribute to those symptoms of feeling tired and bloated and gassy. So it doesn't have to be just parasites. I think some people get very hyper-focused on the parasite cleanses, and I have to just do parasite cleanses, and I'm saying I'm against it, but there's a time and place for everything. It's often not necessarily a kind of like a first step approach that I do where I just go in with killer mode and let's kill all the parasites. Because that doesn't always work very well either. It's more understanding the person that's in front of us, what's happened, what brought us to this place, what are all the contributing factors, and then understanding how to address that in a systemic manner so that we can actually heal long term. A lot of these approaches and cleanses and I guess methods that are out there are still Band-Aid fixes, really. Because they do not address the root cause. If you are someone that is so scared that they're overrun with parasites and you think that you constantly have to parasite cleanse, then let's ask the bigger question. Why is that? Why are you so overrun with parasites? Why are they finding you so, great to hang out with?
Why are you a great host?
Why are you such a great host? Why don't we address that? Why don't we address the environment within and make you a little bit less hostile? Because parasites and pathogens, even, the opportunistic bacteria, they'll find their way into the weak. They do.
Yeah.
They really do. The thing we need to understand is that we're all exposed to most of these things, okay? Whether it's via the water we drink or the air we breathe in or the food we eat. It's not about instilling fear into people where they have to constantly be cleansing or doing these things. It's about understanding how can we support our body with nourishing foods, stress reduction. I mean, that's often bigger than any parasite cleanser is going to help you, is that nervous system dysregulation, okay? That's allowing these things to thrive in you because your body is not strong enough. And that's what we need to address. So this is really where I start off with clients, and it's not about the killer approach unless we are dealing obviously with an acute infection. But most of the times these are more chronic infections that we have a bit of time to prep the body and then go in and address it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for explaining a GI map to me and to our listeners for today. So it's a really, really great starting point, especially if someone's coming to work with you. You get a really great overall view of their gut microbiome, where they're going to be, and then how we can move forward. If it is through diet, because I know that you are a very strong advocate for fixing what you're actually eating first and using food as your healing thing before you then start jumping into other things. So I think that's a really, really great way to find out really the starting point.
Yes.
Now, in the next couple of episodes, we're going to go through a few other tests that you do recommend to clients.
Yes.
And I'll ask you some more questions about those.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the enlightening discussions and insights. If you're ready to take charge of your health journey and unravel the mysteries of endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility, don't forget to connect with Sarah on Instagram at nutriroot_health or shoot her an email at sarah@nutriroot.health.com.au. That will be in the show notes as well.
Remember, your health is an ongoing journey, and I'm your detective, ready to help you crack the case. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and until the next time, take care of yourselves.